The first basic rule of doing a good search is once you have your question is to always break your search up into concept or term groups. Using the following question, does the practice of nurses washing their hands help to prevent hospital-acquired infections? I will demonstrate why this is a good rule to follow, as well as demonstrate it in a database. One reason it is good practice to break your search into concepts or groups is it will enable you to clarify what is important when you search and be more focused. Now take the question, does the practice of nurses washing their hands help to prevent hospital-acquired infections? If I were to attempt to search this question in a database, such as PubMed, by just taking and trying to search the entire question, instead of breaking it up into concepts, what you would find is I am not going to be very successful. The reason is because when you search this way, what the database is doing is being very literal. It attempts to search for every word that you've put in the search box. And in this case, this is a pretty long question, and so there are a lot of words. And as a result, what you will notice is I don't find any items. Now going back to the question, if we were to instead try to break it up into groups or concepts, what we might find is that we would have greater success when we go into PubMed. So in looking at the question, there are two important groups or concepts that we might want to search. The first is hand washing. The second, hospital-acquired infections. Now some are going to ask or want to include nurses. In this case, nurses is not nearly as important as the other two concepts, and so I am not going to use it. Part of the reason I'm not going to use it is the more terms you use, the fewer results that you'll get. And in this case, I'm not sure what's out there in the literature, and so therefore I'd rather start broad and just use two concept groups than three. And so I am going to search this using hand washing and hospital-acquired infections. Now, if I go back to PubMed and just try to use the concepts that were identified from the question, what you'll see here is that when I do a search, instead of not finding anything, I'm able to find 30 articles that actually address the question at hand. Breaking your search into concepts is also important because aside from allowing you to focus on what is important about your question, it also makes your search one that's easier to manipulate. By always starting with your concepts separate and then combining them, you'll be able to take the various terms that you must use in a search and combine them in various ways to get to the articles that are most pertinent to your question. The way that you'll combine these is with what are called Boolean operators, which I will speak to in another video.